he want to bring Mary Wilson on stage, he can. If he want to go to the grave of Florence Ballard and dig her up and bring her on stage, he fucking can.
See this brother winning, man. Hey, look, what is your win, babe? What is your win, babe?
Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. Today's looky would be our honeybee wigs. Baby, these things are in pre-order and they're going to be less than what you see over there on the Instagram. Also, our 640 bar ring and our fingertip ring. And if you are not already a part of our book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube, and for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes you, can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about, what's the name of this book, y'all? Deliver Us from Temptation, the tragic and shocking story of the Temptations. And so, just in case you don't know, guys, I got a new puppy, okay? And he refuses to let me work. He wants 100% of my damn attention, y'all. So don't be thinking I'll be over here just giving my baby the ninja. It didn't say anything about all of that as he joined the party. It was like old times again. Nobody went to sleep that night. I would like to imagine that it was during these few hours that the idea was planted of David, Eddie, and Dennis getting together as a trio and forming a real three-ring circus of ex-lead singers of the Temptations. It certainly crossed my mind. It seemed the obvious way to go. Those guys had several things in common. They had all left the Temptations. They all knew bucket broke. They all knew that if they didn't make it now, that was going to be it for them. And they all knew that the odds were stacked against them making it alone. I don't know about that, TT, because you got Eddie Kendrick, keep on trucking, baby. David Ruffin, I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. I'm sorry, but his solo songs weren't my favorite. His songs with the Temptations were always my favorite. And then you got Dennis Madeo, go pick up the potatoes. Hey, let's go to the Publix. To be quite honest with you guys, you know, I would love to see the Temptations, but to see the three former lead singers of the Temptations, I think I would be more inclined to see that than the Temptations. I mean, y'all tell me, would y'all prefer to see a Temptations show or the former lead singers of the Temptations show? Put me with the David, the Eddie, and the Dennis. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel. The first time I ever saw the Temptations, the Supremes, the Marvelettes, and a whole bunch of those early Motown acts performing was at the Apollo Theater in Harlem in 1962. I was just 10 years old at the time and much more interested in watching the really bad amateur acts than girls in little blue dresses or guys in tuxedos. I didn't even take in the names of those groups that night. But it all came back to me a couple of years later when I met Florence Ballard, and she told me about how she had come to New York for the first time to perform at the Apollo, and how nervous she had been to get on stage in front of all those people. After that, the Apollo had a whole different meaning for me. 22 years later, I was working as a road manager for Mary Wilson and doing well, selling real estate. Well, why you didn't tell Mary Wilson to sell real estate? Have a talk with her, girl. I don't know if this Supremes thing is still working out for you. You might want to come over here and sell houses. But he did say it was kind of like a hobby for him to work with Mary Wilson because it wasn't like she was doing all that great. The night before Motown returns to Apollo, I was with Mary Wilson in New Orleans. Mary was appearing on a bill together with Anthony Gordy of Little Anthony and the Imperials fame, and Martha Reeves and her Vandellas for the night. Martha, two sisters, Lois and Delphine Reeves. Once again, Martha was sizzling with those old Motown jealousies. Martha's emotions ran deep, being astrologically minded. I always believed it was because she was moody, a Cancerian. Yeah. But despite her occasional bouts of stubbornness, I often found her to be quite compassionate. Yeah. That's why all my BFFs be Cancers. Well, I only got one BFF, but it seems like I match well in regards to friendships with Cancers because they understand me. Tonight, though, she insisted on repeating to me her tired old stories about how Diana Ross clawed and slept her way to the top, and how Mary Wilson, who in her view had no real voice, had benefited as a supreme from Diana's torrid affairs with Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy. I mean, where's the lie? Let me say this, okay? Now, Florence and Martha Reeves, they giving me kind of the same zhuzh now, okay? And they both Cancers. I just want to point that out to you. Their moodiness sometimes can get in the way of the business. Their emotions can get in the way of the business. Florence Ballard, I think she let the resentment stop her from moving forward. Tonight, though, she insisted on repeating to me her tired old stories about how Diana Ross had clawed and slept her way to the top, and how Mary Wilson, who in her view had no real voice, had benefited as a supreme from Diana's torrid affairs with Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy. That in Martha's view was the sole reason that Mary Wilson was still able to perpetuate the Supreme's myth, even without a true vocal note in her well-worn throat. Oh, bitch, you ain't got to be disrespectful. It was an interesting web that Martha spun, a confusion of history and legend colored by her own brand of madness. And it seemed like the only satisfaction Martha could find in New Orleans was in fact that she had been invited to perform the next night at Motown Returns to the Apollo, while Mary had not. Like Eddie and David, Mary was on Berry's perpetual shit list, or so it was said. Besides, you couldn't have Otis's group of Temptations and David and Eddie, just as you couldn't risk putting Mary Wilson up on stage with Diana Ross. Well, Mary summoned the courage to go to the Apollo, invited or not. She bought herself a sensational see-through black gown sprinkled with rhinestones and beadings, and was all set to go and make a big splash at the opening. I was determined to go too. Martha told me to send for her if I had any trouble getting in. I'll take care of you, Tony, she promised. Late that night in New Orleans, when the performance was over and we were preparing to leave the next morning for New York City and the Apollo, I found the headstrong Lois Reeves in the hotel lobby looking like she was getting ready to punch someone in the face. You know why? So let me tell you what happened, okay? We in New Orleans. NOLA. Okay, as you people call it. And I am not from New Orleans. I am from D.C. People keep assuming that I'm from New Orleans. They be like, where you from? New Orleans? No, baby, I'm from D.C. But I get it. That is not an insult to me because, hey, D.C. and New Orleans got a lot of ways the same, okay? Especially some of that good shit. And they say that we pronounce our vowels in a different area of our mouth. Okay, whatever you say. I say if it got an R in the word, we will definitely mess it up. But anyway, you got Lois Reeves downstairs in the lobby pacing back and forth like she ready to punch somebody in the face. TT like, what's wrong, girl? That goddamn Martha done it again. TT reflecting back to the time that he had to be a replacement Vandella. You say, what? What had happened was they on a gig. Martha and her nouveau vandellas, because remember, Martha does not bring her same vandellas on a road with her. What she does is each city she goes to, she just grabs some backup singers and say, come on, you finna be a vandella tonight. Okay, now tomorrow, I don't know. They on a gig, and the promoter sees that Martha and her vandellas is getting into it. The promoter steps in, excuse me, you better get it together with these girls, because guess what? If you don't, you won't get paid. I paid for Martha and the vandellas, not just you, bitch. Next minute you know, TT is in a wig singing Heat Wave. Lois says to TT, Tony, you know Martha promised to fly me back to Detroit tomorrow morning so I could get home and have a day of rest before I go back to my job on Monday. You know how cheap Martha is. Now she's saying I got to get in that goddamn van and ride all the way back to Detroit while she flies to New York. What van? I asked her. Child, we didn't fly down here. Delphine and I rode down here in a effing van with the band members. Martha was by now in her room behind closed doors, where she stayed until the next morning when it was time for her, Mary, and me to leave New Orleans for New York. Now he's in Harlem, getting ready to do this Motown Returns to the Apollo thing, or at least attend this Motown Returns to the Apollo thing. Naturally, I had myself driven immediately to the rear entrance, where I told the guard that I worked for Mary Wilson. Naturally, he figured a limo, Mary Wilson, the Supremes, Motown, open up the barricade. How was he to know that neither Mary nor I was supposed to be anywhere near there? Once Martha Reeves had graciously verified that I did indeed work for Mary Wilson, they issued me an all-access pass, and I sailed in. Isn't that Mary Wilson sitting in the front row? I wonder if she's going to be a part of the show. She's held up well. After what happened at Motown 25, I'm surprised to see her here. Do you remember how Diana shoved her? I wonder if she'd had her face and tits done. She looks so good. Fasten your seatbelts. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. The taping of the show went on for hours with Bill Cosby as master of ceremony, introducing a whole string of huge production numbers. One of the most curious moments came when Boy George of the English group Culture Club stood up on stage with a seated Luther Vandross to perform a duo. Anyway, I love me some Boy George. Do you really want to hurt me? Hey, do you really want to make me cry? On one hand, you like, what the hell is Boy George doing there? But you know, it wouldn't be right if Gordy didn't throw some white on stage, okay? It wouldn't be right, because remember when Adam Ant was there at Motown 25 and everybody's like, what the fuck is he doing here? Okay, but we both know that at the time, Boy George nor Luther Vandross were outwardly saying that they were gay. They was just ambiguous, or at least Boy George was. I applaud his courage. It was a glaring mismatch. I don't think so. I don't think so. Poor Boy George was so obviously petrified and out of place that Luther graciously carried the whole song almost by himself. After Gregory Hines had shown off in a long tap dance production number, and Vanessa Williams, the recently dethroned nude Miss America, had done a fabulous tribute to Josephine Baker, Jennifer Holliday recreated her show-stopping song from Dreamgirls to an almost empty theater. She had arrived late. I got very sick. I overate. That song from Dreamgirls came closer to the original Supremes than anything ever Motown came up with that evening. At last, during a break in the taping, Bill Cosby leaned down towards Mary. How come you're not in the show? He asked her. How come you're not up here? I wasn't invited, she told him. I'm going to put you up here in a place where they can't cut you out, he said. He started announcing the stars for the next piece of the show, which was the feature Stevie Wonder singing his new song. Da 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 la la da 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 da. My part-time lover. Sorry, that's not my favorite CB Wonder song. Mine is That Girl. That girl thinks that she's so bad. Everybody applauded like crazy. The four tops and two of Smokey Robinson's background singers stood up near Stevie, who was seated at the keyboard, and then looking right at Mary Cosby said, "Are there any more background singers out there?" And to everyone's surprise, he helped her on stage. Mary got up there in her see-through gown and stood right next to the Four Tops lead singer, Levi Stubbs. That wasn't the one she was hunching. Close enough so that there was no way the camera could cut her out without cutting out Levi too. And of course, nobody could say a thing about it. I was standing near Motown president Suzanne DePass at the time watching the show on the monitors when Mary got up on the stage. Suzanne was outraged. "Your boss is out of her mind. The woman is crazy," she screamed. "Barry's gonna have a fit." Nobody give a fuck what Barry think. Nobody cared. Bill Cosby said the girl could come on stage. At the time, Billy Cosby had a lot of power. This is when you got the Cosby Show. But hell, if he want to bring Mary Wilson on stage, he can. Fuck, if he want to go to the grave of Florence Ballard and dig her up and bring her on stage, he fucking can. But you know what I'm saying? Bill Cosby can do whatever the hell he wanna do. Some people were missing. Those who had passed on and those who had been passed by. Quite a few people were asking, where's David Ruffin? Where's Eddie Kendrick? This ain't the same without them. And for that matter, where's the Vandellas? You got that right. How dare Barry Gordy to do that, to actually put on a show without the front runners present. Martha Reeves, who had the foresight to bring in 2 huge bottles of white wine, was being surprisingly gracious to everyone, shockingly, even to Mary Wells. Martha had already drawn chalk lines across the dressing room floor to separate her area from Mary's. Oh, okay. See, stuff like that, I am a huge antagonizer, y'all. Stuff like that make me do things on purpose to irritate people. Oh, you don't want me over there? Oh, I'm gonna find a reason to get over there. I find that the older I get, the less I'm capable of holding my tongue. I find that. You know, and I'm like, I don't want to be the old lady that get her ass beat all the time. I don't want to be that, okay? But it's hard for me not to antagonize a person that's being a bitch. Now, Martha, the one who drew the chalk line, you know, between her and Mary. So, Mary, you stay on your side. I stay on my side, okay? Martha then threw Mary's gown on the floor. Girl, Mary, girl. It was the last thing Mary Wells needed. She was there with her baby girl Sugar and an abusive husband trying to hide the fact that she was sick and aging and seriously strung out on drugs. Damn, I didn't know that. And all she said about Martha's crazy behavior was, "Why is she doing this to me?" Shh. Whooped her ass. Ooh, you know what I would have did to her? Ooh, I'd have put butter in her face cream. That's what I would have did. I would have did all kinds of crazy stuff to that lady. I'd make her think she was going crazy. You hear me? Because you ain't finna just do anything to me. Talking about something, why she doing this to me. You better get up and punch that bitch in the mouth. Your husband right there. Later in the evening, Luther Vandross came up to me and asked to be presented to Mary Wilson. He told me he was nervous and seemed thrilled that he was about to meet one of the original Supremes, which I thought was a refreshing attitude from a superstar. Yeah, Luther was killing it back then. I was still in the makeup tent when I heard Bill Cosby announce over the monitors, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest," at which someone in the tent shouted, "Oh God, I knew it. The bitch has arrived." Why he destroy that little... if you have not already done so, please remember to like, share the Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com for this honeybee wig, baby. Now remember this, the same people that you meet on the way up will always be the same people that you meet on the way down. My naysayers, my patron loves you, babies. Y'all have a good one.